Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our tutorial on the timeline. In the first part of this tutorial, we focused on props and the different prop tracks in the timeline and how you can, which data goes in which track and how you can manipulate your props in different ways. In this tutorial, we're going to do the same thing except for the characters. So let's go ahead and bring a character into our scene first. We'll go to our actor tab, into our avatar folder, and G6 characters, and everyone should have our boy Mason. So we'll just double click on Mason and add him to our scene. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is body animation, tracks and tools. So I'm going to press F3 to go into my timeline again, and we have Mason selected. And the first track we're going to talk about is the one that's already up here called the motion track. Now the data that goes in the motion track will be clips, and those clips will come from, if we go up to our motion tab over here, that data will come from the motion puppet tool, the direct puppet tool, and the device mocap. That will all create clips in the motion track. In addition to that, if we right click on our character, we have the option for perform. There's a perform menu, and we have different options here. So for example, if I click walk and think, Mason will start walking and start thinking. He's a walking and a thinking. So what he's thinking about, nobody knows. But if we press space in the middle of the animation, it'll stop and it'll create the animation clip only up until that point. So we kind of interrupted Mason deep in thought. So we have this clip right here, and just like any clip, you can scrub through it. You can manipulate it, you can loop it, you can stretch it, just like we did in the previous tutorial. But I just wanted to show you that perform motions will apply here as well. Let's just select that clip and delete it. Let's take a look at the motion puppet tool and the direct puppet tool. So the motion puppet tool, we're not going to go into too much detail in all of these tools again. It's just kind of a crash course. So we can select all of these base motions like this boxing motion and press space, and we can preview that. You can see Mason the boxer there. We also have like a dancing motion right here. And these are all very loopable motions. Let's just go ahead and choose this drunk motion and press the record button, and then I'm going to press space. And let's record a couple seconds of, Mason being drunk. And just press space to stop that. And you can see it created a clip. I started from frame 250 or so. But what I can do is I can just click that clip and bring it back to frame 1. And all the data will be the same, just at a different point. So let's just go ahead and close that down. And you can see that created a puppet clip right there. So let's go over to a different frame over here. And let's check out the direct puppet tool. Now the direct puppet tool, like I mentioned, will also create a clip in this track. Let's go ahead and select the head and primary rotation. And the puppet tool is a direct puppet tool is used for manipulating individual body parts according to your mouse movement. Essentially, it's good for adding a little bit of stuff onto motions if you want to layer over top of them, which I'll show you in just a moment. But let's just go ahead and preview this, and you can see that I can move my character's head according to my mouse movements. Now the cool thing about this is if I go back to frame 1, I can actually record over top of this, data that I already have. I can choose my head, primary rotation, and press record. Let's make sure we're at a good camera angle, like over here where we can see. And I'm going to press record, and we're going to have him look kind of like, over here, and he's kind of following our mouse movements, looking even more drunk than he previously was. And that will extend our puppet clip, and that'll be a puppet clip with 0 in parentheses right there. And you can see that data has blended in to the motion puppet tool seamlessly. So that's a cool way you can kind of combine those two tools to create really quick and custom animations, and you can do that with other body parts as well. But let's just go ahead and select this clip and delete it for now. And what I'm going to do now is apply a motion from our motion library. So let's go to our motion tab up here, and under motions we have G6 Mason, G6 motion Mason. There we go. Double click that, and let's go into move, and let's double click on this walk relaxed loop. So if I double click on that, it'll apply to my selected character. You can see the clip appear in the motion track right there. And again, we can loop and stretch this like we did in the previous tutorial. For example, if I want to loop this, make sure loop is toggled and click and drag the edge of the clip. So now we have him walking 2 loops, and it's seamless because these are looped clips right here. They're looped purposely, so you can use them in looping scenarios such as this. So if we want to layer on top of that looping motion in the motion track, we can also layer on top of that using our Edit Motion Layer tool, which will use Human IK keyframe editing. So let's first open up the track for motion layer. And you can see we have our motion layer track right there. And if we twirl this down, you can see we have all sorts of different body parts that correspond to the different bones in our character's body. But let's go ahead, say for example during this walk we wanted Mason to be looking from left to right, using his head obviously. Let's go ahead and choose the Edit Motion Layer tool, and you can see all those bones pop up. We're only going to be dealing with the head. What I want to do here is I want to select my character's head, and let's press the E hotkey, and I'm going to move the head slightly to the right, something like that. And that's going to create keyframes in all of the affected tracks right here. So you can see it creates keyframes in all those tracks. We can maybe even move it a little bit over further to the right hand side there. And then maybe about frame 150 or something, we can have him looking far to the right. And that creates keyframes in the relevant tracks there as well. So now we have Mason looking to the right, looking to the left, and maybe he's at this point right here, we want him to go back to normal. We want him to go back to the original pose, the original motion that he had before. Now to do that, the easiest way is just to select your Edit Motion Layer tool and press this reset button. And it says reset to original clip pose. So if we select that, it'll reset it back to the data that was originally recorded in that motion clip. And from this point on, everything will continue as normal. So we just have that, quick look to the right, look to the left, and back to normal in those 3 keyframes. And like I already showed you in the previous tutorial, you can, enhance this with ease in and ease out and, whatever you choose. But let's just go ahead and play this back real quick by pressing the space key. So we have that look to the left and look to the right. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and close this down. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail in all the separate tools. We have separate tutorials for those. But that is all the data that will show up in your motion layer tool. And you can go to each individual track and open or close them by going down here as well. Let's just go ahead and we'll keep that. We'll just minimize it for now. And let's open up a few other tracks. This time we're going to talk about facial animation. So let's go over here to our tracks and let's open up our Viseme track, which is for our lip syncing, the expression track, which is used for our facial puppeting, and the facial layer track, which is used for our facial keyframe animation. So those 3 tracks are now in our timeline. Let's go ahead and bring it down a little bit. And let's press the J hotkey to focus on Mason's face. And now we're going to talk some facial animation. So let's go ahead back to frame 0. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some expression to Mason's face since he looks a little bit blasé right now. Let's go to the facial puppet tool on the right here. This is where you create your facial expressions. So if I go to Mason, you can see Mason has a number of different profiles here. There's an angry one right here. If we press space, we can preview that and see, Mason's not impressed. There's I think this one's scared. Yeah, it's kind of like a scared look right there. And there's a sad one. This is the sad one right here. So it doesn't look too sad. It kind of looks a little bit, lost. But let's go ahead and choose this happy one. If I preview that, you can see there, he's pretty happy. So let's have him like happily walking along. To do that, I'm just going to press the record and space and move my mouse key, or my mouse button cursor rather, up, and you can see him smiling, going back to normal and smiling again like that. And that's pretty much the end of the clip right there. So we have that puppet clip now in the expression track. And again, we can manipulate that in various ways as well, just like with the previous clips. So say for example, I wanted to go back to frame 1 right here, and I only wanted to move Mason's eyes. I wanted to layer on top of that, but only move the eyes. I can use this erase tool right here, and I can select my character's eyeballs. And if I preview, you can see I can move those around separately, kind of freaky, like that. Let's go ahead and record that, and let's just like randomly move the eyes. So, he's looking over there. Oops, we have the eyelid selected, I believe, as well. Oh, never mind, he's just smiling a lot. Okay. So again, we can, move the eyes over there and stuff like that. So you can see the eyes moving, the eye movement that I created right there, and, looking in various directions anyways. Okay, so that's how you can layer over top, and it extends the puppet clip for as long as you create that eye animation. So it'll just layer over top and combine that data into the same clip. let's look at facial layer animation now. Very similar to the motion layer tool. So let's close this down for now and go into, down here, our face key tool. So there's our face key tool that pops up. Now in the near future we will have a more advanced face key tool with different points that you can manipulate. But for now we're going to be restricted to the muscle-based facial key animation. So let's go ahead and maybe about this point right here, maybe he sees something he doesn't really like, he's not really impressed by over at that point right there. So what I can do is if I go to this track right here in the facial layer track, or this position right here, this frame, and I press reset all, that's going to add an absolute key into my facial layer track. So that's going to add a keyframe for my facial layer track. Let's go over here then, and let's give him like a little bit of a, let's actually move this a little bit forward. So you can take that keyframe, move it a little bit forward, and here, let's make him look a little bit angry. So you see something he doesn't like, maybe one of his enemies like Chuck. He doesn't really like Chuck, I don't think. Let's make him angry. So here he's, let's take those muscles and make him angry. So his eyes are angry, but his mouth is smiling right now. Let's go ahead and select his cheeks. Click and drag and bring those down. Again, you're just clicking and dragging the muscles right there, and we can bring those down like that. So he doesn't look too impressed. We can select his lips as well, and kind of maybe like purse his lips a little bit. So he sees, oh, there's Chuck, my arch nemesis, over there. So he's smiling, and then here he's transitioning into that kind of like, oh, Chuck, not him again. And then right here, you can press reset all, and he's back to his happy old self because he realizes, I'm Mason, I'm so much better than Chuck. All right, so there we have, the transition from frown to smile, and that's your facial key editing, and it creates those keyframes right there. Now, the last thing I'm going to look at in this tutorial is the automatic lip sync, and that'll be in the Viseme track right here. So let's close down our facial key editor right here, and we can actually just close down our motion track and our motion layer track just to make some more room here. And let's open up, we already have the Viseme track opened up here. Let's go to the very first frame and let's have Mason, say something. Let's give him something to say. So there's a couple things we can do. We can go to create script, and we have the option to record our character's voice, record my voice, anyone's voice really, use text to speech. You can also use a WAV file or a Crazy Talk script. Now, in terms of quality for lip syncing results, I would recommend using a very clean WAV file with very little background noise. So that's what I would recommend using because the automatic lip sync analyzes that wavelength and creates the appropriate lip syncing. But for this example, I'm just going to go ahead and record my own voice. And I'm going to just say something simple. So we can select record voice here. And now you have the option to just press record. And once you press record, you have to say something for Mason to lip sync. So I'll just say something simple. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, and stop, and you can play that back. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, simple enough. And if you're satisfied with that, you can just go ahead and press OK. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, so we got a decent lip syncing result. We can't really see it all that well since he keeps on moving his head. But we can twirl down our Viseme track, and in our Viseme track you can see, if I hold the Alt key and scroll my mouse button up to zoom in, you can see all of the separate keyframes that it automatically created for our lip syncing. So it basically starts over here where I say hi. I think here is where I say hi. Hi. Yep. Okay, so it says hi right here, and he has that IH right here. If we double click on this keyframe right here, it'll bring up our lips editor window, our lips editor table, and we can choose any sort of, Viseme shape that we want right here. So I think the I was good because that was like a hi. Here he has a none, so he's like hi. It's very simple again. And then my name. Maybe here he should have an M because he's saying my name. So we can take this SZ one. Instead of that, we can have a M, like a BMP. So say my name is May, and then here Mason. So here's like is Mason. May. I think maybe I want to make his expression a little bit stronger here. So we'll take this IH. Let's take the expressiveness up so he's more expressive on his mouth right there. If we pan around, you can see Now he's saying like May, and then here's the sun. And we don't want this woo, we want it to be like more like a So instead of a ooh, it'll be more like a o. And we'll tone down expressiveness. So May, sun. And then here should have a ng right there. We can pump up the expressiveness on that. No, we want to keep that expressiveness down. There we go. So Mason, and then we'll have a none. So right here, Mason. Okay, good enough for me. You know, this is not a tutorial about lip syncing, but I just wanted to show you where the data is and how you can manipulate it in the timeline. Now, what I'm going to show you how to do next is actually save all that data, all that animation data for both the body and the mouth. So the body and the facial animation. So let's go ahead and do that. And the way you do that is by using the collect clip track. So let's go to the part where we want to end our motion at. So let's press the space bar. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, so maybe somewhere around there we want to stop the animation. That's going to be the animation that we want to save. So in our collect clip track, we can click and drag and make sure we have a selection area, and then right click that selection area. And there's a few options here. You can add this motion to the library. Now the motion will only be your body animation. It won't save your facial animation as well. That's where Motion Plus comes in handy. Motion Plus will save the body and the facial animation. And you also have saving gestures to the library as well, or you can add motion and Motion Plus to 3D Exchange directly for export into Max or Maya or Unity or Unreal or whatever tool you're using. For myself, I'm just going to go ahead and add Motion Plus to library. And I'm going to select all this data here. We have everything selected. That's pretty good. We don't need constraint keys, so we can leave that deselected. And we have other tutorials that go into more detail on that. Let's just press OK. And let's save this to our desktop. You can see I already have a Mason's greeting here. So let's just save it over top of that. We don't need the old one right there. We can replace it. Press yes. And we've now saved that motion, which means that it is on our desktop, and we can apply it to another Mason. So let's bring another Mason into our scene. So let's go to our Actor tab again, and our developer Celigon has a cool style pack that you can get from the Content Store Marketplace. We can get some Mason with some new threads here. Let's just click and drag the second Mason in. And we want to go back to frame 1 so we can have them, doing it simultaneously. And we can even just, delete the original Mason just by selecting him and deleting. And if we press the Windows N, we can go back to our desktop and we have Mason greeting right here. Let's click and drag it and go back to iClone and click and drag it directly onto our character. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, so that's basically it. That's saving your body and facial animation using the timeline. Now the last thing I want to show you is how you can switch cameras, because switching cameras is a pretty useful thing. I just want to throw that in there. Let's press F3, go into our timeline, and the way you switch cameras is by using the switcher track right here. So first of all, I need to create a couple of cameras. So let's go up to create camera, create camera. That creates 2 cameras. In our scene tab right here, we have camera and camera with a 0 in parentheses. And if we select this camera, we can just double click it, rename it to camera 01 just to keep things a little bit more organized, and camera 02. So now we have 2 cameras. Let's select camera 01. Make sure we go up here and select camera 01 from our camera list as well. Let's select Mason and, maybe look at him from like a slight overhead view right here. We can actually have him looking at the camera. That's an easy thing to do. Again, this is sort of something that's not really related to the timeline, but it's kind of cool to do. We'll go to our modify edit section right here, and down to our look at section, look at camera. So now Mason will be kind of, kind of following the camera around like this. And, we can go here and at this point right here, I'm going to press F3, go into the timeline. In my switcher track, I'm going to make sure that I'm in my first frame here, and right click, and from the camera list, I want to select camera 1. So basically right now, we're going to be showing camera 1. And let's press the space key. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, and then here, what I want to do is right click in my switcher track, and from the camera list, just select camera 2. So now camera 2 is what's going to be showing. So we want to go to camera 2 right here. And, this is a good angle as any. We can have like maybe an upper angle like that. he's still looking at the other camera, which is somewhere over there, off in the distance. There it is. So he's looking at that camera right now. And we can have a view, from this angle. We're not being too artistic here or anything. We'll just have the camera from this angle. So from this point on, we will be showing camera 2. So it'll switch cameras right there. Now to see that, we need to go into switcher mode for our camera mode right here. So I'll just click on this and select switch. And now from here to here, he'll keep walking like that. So let's go ahead and play that back, and that'll end off our tutorial for the timeline as it deals with characters. So let's go ahead and close down our timeline now and play this back. Hi, my name is Mason. Okay, so nothing artistic again, just wanted to show you the capabilities and the switcher function in the timeline. Useful little tip to switch up the cameras. And that's about it for this tutorial. So thank you everybody for watching this timeline series. The timeline is a really useful and essential tool to learn in iClone. Any questions, again, like I always say, you can go to forum.reallusion.com. We have an awesome community that's willing to answer your questions there. You can also email me, developer@reallusion.com. Or there's all the help files. You can access them by going up to help and online manual. So thank you everybody again for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.